You're listening to the Life Friendly Business Podcast. I'm your host, Erin Thomas Wong, business mentor, author, and founder of the Cocoon VIP membership, empowering women around the world to build businesses on their terms. If you want to grow and scale a business that works in harmony with your family and your life, this podcast is for you. Today, I'm speaking to Natalie Pithers, founder of the Curious Descendants Club, owner of Genealogy Stories, and a single mum of 3 kids. I wanted to speak to Natalie about this incredible event that she set up, the History of Ukraine, which raised thousands and thousands of pounds for charity. But also through getting visible with this event, it opened up unexpected opportunity. Hi, Natalie. Thank you so much for joining me on the podcast today.
Hi, Erin. Lovely to meet you.
So what I'd love you to do, first of all, is just tell us a bit about what you do and why you started your own business in the first place.
Okay, so my name's Natalie. I am a family historian. So when I was about 18, I started tracing my family history as a hobby. And it became an all-encompassing passion that I always had. And like many people, I used to work in project management. Oh, I still do some of the time. And when I had my second daughter, I decided to start blogging about family history with the idea that maybe I could sell one-to-one services researching people's family trees on the side, just as a little sideline to kind of keep me busy whilst I was on maternity leave, or keep my brain busy. And before I knew it, I loved it so much, and I loved doing the research so much that that when it came time to go back to work, I didn't want to. I wanted to carry on growing my business, and then I separated from my partner, and COVID hit. And all of a sudden, I had no way of going out and back to work, and a kind of desperate need to earn some money. So I really, really leaned into my business, and I got really busy doing one-to-one work, and then realized I'd run out of time. I couldn't sell any more of my time, and that I was burning out with it a bit. But I kept kind of coming back to this idea of helping people to write their family history. My degree's in English literature. I absolutely love story writing. And it was something that I seemed to be helping a lot of people with. So I ended up setting up a membership club called the Curious Descendants Club, which is what I do all the time now in terms of my business. And that's a membership dedicated to helping people who, like me, are genealogy addicts, to organise their research and start turning it into stories to pass down the generations. Sorry, that was a really long answer.
No, it's all good. I was going to say to you, I love the name Curious Descendants Club. It's really great. And
thank you.
And hearing your story there, it's always really inspiring to hear how people have turned a passion, starting off with blogging for free and perhaps not making any money for it, into monetizing that and making it into a business. So did you have, how did you know how to set up a membership? Was that a whole new world to you?
It was a completely new world. So one of the things that I did when I first I started blogging, and quite early on, I heard about a paid business group that did marketing and all sorts of different kind of webinars and courses, and had a community. And it was for me, it felt quite expensive, but they did like a really cheap trial. And I thought, I'm just going to give this a go, because I realized quite early on that I didn't know how to build a website, and I didn't know how to market myself. And I kind of needed all that kind of business knowledge. And I love learning. So I think it just appealed to me. It just sounded interesting. So I joined that. And it was really through joining that I learned about what a membership is, and and then from them found other kind of training and other memberships to join about memberships and that kind of thing. So yeah, really, I kind of think those kind of business networking groups that have also got a quite strong educational element really, really helped me and really worked well for me, because I could dip in and out of it when I needed to and learn things, as and when they occurred to me.
Yeah. And so I have a membership called the Cocoon, which is the same idea in terms of not only is it the network and the community, but it's also the training and the experts on hand that you can access when you need to. And I totally get as well that push pull of when you're starting out in business, or even, to be honest, when you've been running a while, but you're not earning enough to pay yourself what you want to pay yourself. So you're thinking, well, can I really afford to get business support. But the problem is that if you don't get the business support, you're not going to move forward as fast as you would like, and you're not going to earn the money as fast as you would like. So it's one of those like, leap of faith moments, isn't it?
It is really, yeah, it is. It really is. I would say that that's the one thing that has been absolutely invaluable to me, though. And I made a lot of friends through that group that I'm still friends with now, that I still turn to when I need help. And a lot of the lessons that I learnt whilst I was in that group, I still use today. So yeah, it really was invaluable.
And I think that that's one thing that a lot of us small business owners or entrepreneurs, whatever you want to call yourself, we have in common is the fact that we love learning. And the fact is we never stop learning, and so like being able to embrace that culture of kind of constantly developing ourselves as people and as business owners. And that only benefits everyone else around us, doesn't it?
No, absolutely. I think you learn something, you end up passing it on to another colleague, another business owner that you've met, and then they pass you a nugget back, and it just grows and grows. I completely agree.
Yeah. So, this podcast is all about running your business in a life-friendly way. And this series is about visibility, and we're going to be moving on to that. But in terms of running your business in a life-friendly way, so you mentioned that you're now a single mum and you've got 3 kids. So I imagine that you've had to design this in a way that works around that. So do you just want to share a little bit more about that?
Yeah, so small things really. So like in terms of your working hours, I can't work necessarily 9 to 5 or kind of traditional hours. So I don't. So I did, I don't know, 10 till 2 or whatever, or 10 till 3. And then I'd pick things back up again in the evening. But then I tried to make sure the things that I was picking back up in the evening were things that I enjoyed, that kind of felt not too worky, if you know what I mean. So I might do something like client report writing or tech stuff during the day, but then in the evening I might do I have a podcast series called Twice Removed where I interviewed historians. I would do that in the evening because that felt like something enjoyable and fun and not too worky. So some of it was about deciding what I did and when I did it, and some of it was also about letting go of perfectionism. So when I hold a workshop in the evening, which I do at least once a month at 8:00 in the evening, I always caveat it with, I have 3 children. They may well, in fact, they're quite likely at some point to come down and stick their head in front of the camera. It just seems to be like Murphy's Law that if I'm online, they are going to come down. And I just make sure people are aware of that. And my kids have got used to it. They've got used to kind of coming down and me going, nope, I'm on a call. So yeah, choosing the right activity and when you do that activity, I think it really helps, and also not giving yourself permission to just do it and not worry if the dog barks in the middle or your kids walk in the middle, or I think as long as you've told people, most people are pretty understanding, and if they're not, do I really want to work with them?
Absolutely, great point. And I think you're right. I think that the idea of like kids coming in when you're in the middle of a live call, like it's stress that you create within yourself, and we kind of hold all of that. But actually what you're saying is just let that go. If it happens, it happens. And you're right. I think especially I think that that's one thing that was good about lockdown and all these millions of Zoom calls everyone got used to, and Microsoft Teams, is that people just had to recognize that we've got lives going on behind our computer screen, and it's become a lot more accepted, hasn't it? Well, and like you say, especially with the kind of people that I think you and I both work with, it's absolutely okay if that happens.
Yeah, absolutely. I think lockdown really did help. And also when I first started doing my podcast series, and when I was having like client one-to-ones and things like that, I'd quite often try to do them when the kids were at school, and they'd be recorded, and then I'd have to go and edit them and all that kind of thing. And that was expensive as well. And then I thought, I need to save some time here. It's taking me too long to kind of record these things, edit them, and then get them out the door. And somebody said to me, you should just do them live. So I did, and that it was absolutely terrifying. But once I'd done a few, actually they became more popular. The live format worked better. It meant it was less edited, and people seemed to like that. And it meant that I didn't fall into the trap of becoming a perfectionist about something that was pre-recorded, which I think is quite easy to do. So yeah, so embracing imperfection.
Yeah, and that's a really good insight as well to the fact that even though it felt uncomfortable at first, being able to do it live has actually saved you all that time that you would have been doing editing and pre-recording and all those things. So yeah, I really like that. And I think what you were saying as well about the different tasks that you're doing throughout the day, that you're being quite strategic with that. I think, when I'm talking to people about the kind of life-friendly approach, one of those things is working around your energy. And that sounds like, what you're doing naturally is just thinking about, right, I've got time to focus when the kids aren't here doing this stuff. But then in the evenings, I know that, I find it enjoyable to do the live sessions or the podcast stuff. And so you're kind of working that out and being able to work in a way that flows for you.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think I've got better with that over time. The only thing I would say as a little bit of a caveat is it's really easy to burn out when you're doing things that you really enjoy, because you just don't realize, because you don't necessarily think of them as work, or you think of them as enjoyable and challenging. You can end up doing too much without even realizing it, and that's something that certainly happened to me. And I've learned to actually to listen to my body more than my brain over time, because my brain will say, "Yeah, this is great, keep going, you're really enjoying this," and get a real buzz from it, and become quite addicted to doing more and more and more. And then the more people say, like, "Wow, you're Superwoman, how do you get so much done?" the more I'd end up doing more and more and more. It was quite addictive. And I've definitely learned to listen to my body when my body is saying, "Oh, okay, I've realised I've been writing an email and I haven't actually taken a breath for 5 minutes." That's my signal that I'm burning out, is that I seem to hold my breath when I'm working, because I'm so focused on it, I forget to breathe.
But you're right as well. It is that fact that when you love what you do and it doesn't feel like work, in inverted commas, I speak to and mentor so many women who are just over delivering all the time because they're like, well, it doesn't feel like work, so therefore I'll say yes, yes, yes. And I think that's where having our boundaries in place, that we know, like you say, you spot those signals of when you're on the edge of burnout, or kind of recognizing that we do only have a certain amount of energy to expand, and we need to be aware of when that's running out and make sure that we're actually forcing ourselves to take some downtime.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I've definitely, it's definitely still a lesson that I'm still learning, but I feel like I've come quite a long way with it in terms of beginning to recognize those signs that I am doing a little bit too much. And I also monitor my diary a little bit closer now. I look at, okay, how many evenings have I worked this week? That means next week I shouldn't work any, or I should work less, or I kind of look at my diary a lot more and try and analyze it, I suppose, for times when I have been working a lot, because it's quite easy to fall into the trap of actually working every evening and not even realizing, especially if it's something creative, like, I don't know, for example, for me, I could be writing a blog post that's actually writing about one of my ancestors. So it's kind of combining my hobby with work. And so it kind of doesn't feel obviously worky. But actually, if I've done that one evening, and then I've done, I don't know, a podcast interview one evening, and then I've taught a workshop one evening, it all adds up. So just kind of being a bit more aware of what I've done each evening has helped.
And it takes a while to break away from the norm thinking of Monday to Friday daytimes I should be working, and actually thinking, well, I've been working in the evenings, I've been working on a Saturday, so I'm going to take a Monday and Tuesday off, for example. It's so ingrained in us that, well, why aren't you working? That's a work day. But this is the whole thing about doing it on your own terms, isn't it?
No, it absolutely is. Yeah, absolutely. You set your own working hours, so you just have to listen to your own body and keep an eye on your own diary, I think, really.
Yeah. So what I want you to share with us now is, I know that you've obviously built this whole network with the genealogy work, and I'd love you to tell us about this whole event that happened that you decided to put on when the Ukraine war broke out. So do you want to explain a bit more about that?
Yeah, sure. So I ran an event called History for Ukraine. I had a bit of a crazy idea. So I always joke that my best ideas come in the shower. And the war in Ukraine had literally just started in the March, and I was having a shower and I was thinking about donating some money, and then I was thinking, what could I do to like maybe fundraise some money, and I had this idea of putting on a history event that was full of history speakers, but was a bit like Red Nose Day or Comic Relief, where you'd have like a talk and then you'd have some footage encouraging people to donate. And originally I thought I could do it as a ticketed event, and quite quickly realized that presented a whole load of problems, like, you know, how do I know how many people are going to come? I don't want to limit my ticket sales, then I've got to upgrade my Zoom and all those kind of things. So I then decided it would be fun to run it as a live event that was live streamed across, and for some reason 24 hours had come into my head that it had to run for 24 hours. I don't know where that came from. And I put a call out on Twitter saying I'd had this idea. Was anyone interested in helping me with it? And what did they think? And I had an absolute avalanche of people come forward and say, yeah, this is a great idea. I really want to help. And before I knew it, the whole thing had completely escalated, really. I think within 24 hours, we'd set up a working group of, I think probably about 8 to 10 people. People basically submitted their name and a little bit about themselves, and I tried to pick people who were, some people were genealogists, some people kind of academic historians. I tried to kind of pick a mix of people basically, and then some were business friends that I'd met. And yeah, so within like 24 hours, we had this working group. We put out quite a strong plea on Twitter for various historians to get involved, kind of utilized our networks really. And Dr. Janina Ramirez, who's a really well-known historian, she's been in a lot of BBC programs, came forward straight away and said, "Yep, sign me up. I'd love to give a free talk and help raise money." And from there, the whole thing just absolutely snowballed, and took us 2 weeks to organise, and we raised £50,000 within 24 hours, and then not long after that, the final total was well into the kind of £56,000 by like the end of that week. So. It was crazy.
Absolutely incredible, really incredible. And I mean, I can hear from the way that you're talking about it. I was going to say, did you have any moments of self-doubt or imposter syndrome? But it sounds like you were so motivated with this that it just like took a life of its own by the sounds of it, with so many people getting involved.
Yeah, I did definitely have moments where I thought, oh my gosh, what have I done? What if this all goes really flat? But there was it actually just really restored my faith in humanity. I think the war in Ukraine really bothered me. I don't really know why that bothered me more than some of the other terrible disasters and wars that have been there. It just kept playing on my mind. I think maybe something about how close it is, but it just felt so good to be galvanized and to have all these other people that were galvanized too. So it was really exciting, but it was very stressful as well. So we organized, I can't remember how many speakers we had now. I think we had something like 50 speakers in the end, all giving kind of 10-15 minute talks. We had a wonderful video company who were actually, half of the team were actually based in Ukraine. He'd recently lost his brother in the fighting, and they got in touch and volunteered to do these videos for us that would play in between the talks, that would show footage of the war, but also footage of like traditional Ukraine dancing and Ukraine's history. And that was very much our angle, that we felt like the actually Ukraine's history was under attack as much as the country and all the people like living through it as well. Their heritage is under attack. So yeah, so it was a lot to organise, and we had this like working group, and we met every single day, including in the evening, and a lot of people volunteered a lot of time, and I made some friends for life for it as well, which was fantastic. So Anna was like my right hand man, and she worked through in the evenings whilst having COVID in order to kind of get things up and going. So it was an incredible group effort.
Wow. I mean, it's so inspiring, and what an incredible amount of money to raise as well. And talking about visibility, I mean, this kind of catapulted you in front of, so many people that you might not have had contact with otherwise. So what did that do for your business and your brand?
Well, I've definitely become recognisable in that people tend to associate me with the History for Ukraine event, and I've had people say to me, "Oh, you're the History from Ukraine lady." So I became associated with it, obviously, which was fantastic because it's something that I'm really proud of. But actually, very soon after running the event, I got a phone call asking me if I'd come and do some marketing and comms for a genealogy organisation, which I said yes to. And that very quickly morphed into a 4-day-a-week job, which I'm now doing alongside my business. And it's kind of my dream job. It's for a big genealogy organisation. It's doing marketing and comms, which is not something I'd worked in, but something I absolutely loved about doing within my own business. Something that I became a bit addicted to doing and learning about. And then doing 2 days a week project management for them as well, which is something I know how to do and what my previous career was in. So it's become a real hybrid. It's really, really flexible, and it means that I can work those 4 days a week and then 1 day a week still run my membership club. It's meant that my business has become perhaps slower growing, but much more focused. I rather than trying to do everything, it meant I narrowed very much down into actually the one thing that I want to carry on doing is membership. And actually, only a couple of weeks ago, I took, other than delivering talks, I took all my one-to-one services off my website, which felt like this massive leap, but was actually really exciting. It kind of made me start falling in love with my business all over again.
I love the fact that basically this opportunity has stemmed from this amazing visibility that you've had by getting out there. And like, you say about the marketing and comms, well, you've proven that you can do that by, putting on this huge event and getting so many people involved. And I know you mentioned to me that, even though this is kind of like your dream job, you did have that kind of mindset wobble as to like, should I take a job when you've spent all this time setting up your business? Do you want to just share how that felt?
Yeah, it was a difficult decision because I really love my business, and I knew that if I took the job, it would mean that the business did grow a lot slower. In fact, it might have periods where actually it just maintained itself, just washed its face, as I say. And that did feel like quite a difficult decision in some ways because I'd invested so much time and energy into the business already. But really, I had to be realistic. I'm a single parent of 3 children. It would be daft to have turned down reliable income in an industry that I love. So it didn't mean giving up on the things that I love, and the kind of genealogy world. So it felt silly to say no to it. And actually, I'm really, really glad I said yes to it. It's meant that I am far less stressed. I have a reliable income stream, and that's meant that I can afford to be a little bit more creative with my business. It means that I can afford to be a little bit slower paced with it when I want to be. So it's given me a lot of freedom, which, ironically, I thought it would take away, but actually it has given me much more freedom. And it meant that I did feel like a bit of imposter syndrome. So I felt like I was no longer a small business owner. And I did have a little bit of a wobble where I thought, oh, does that mean I'm going to lose all my small business friends that I've made because we just won't have that in common anymore? And actually, it hasn't mattered at all. And actually, even within the world of work, there's still a lot of crossover of things that you go through, that also small business owners go through. So it was definitely the right decision.
I think it's really important for people to know that it's okay to go and get a job, whether it's deciding to actually completely finish your business and go back to employment, or whether it's like doing half and half to get that nice stability and all those things. Like whatever you decide to do in your situation is absolutely okay. And I think that fear sometimes, like you say, of kind of what will other people think? Are they going to think that, I haven't been able to make a go of my business or anything like that? We've just got to get rid of all those negative thoughts, which are in our head, not necessarily in other people's, and just make the right choice for ourselves.
Yeah, absolutely. And who says you have to grow your business to, multi-million pounds in a year or whatever? Your business should be doing what you want it to do for you. And that's going to be different for every single individual. And that could be, that you want a small business that keeps your mind engaged, that allows you to do something creative that you love. It doesn't have to necessarily even be monetary. Or it could be that you want to grow this business and be able to live off of it income wise, in the future. So yeah, definitely. I think you have to set your own goals really, and not. It's quite easy to be swayed by the crowd, I think, or because a lot of the training and things around small businesses is very much focused on improving your finances and improving your marketing in order to improve your sales and that kind of thing. And that's all that is very valid, but I think it can sometimes cloud the other reasons why we might be running a business, which might be for a whole range of reasons, but might be just to have more flexibility time wise, or might be to do something that we love, or might be to be able to explore something that's new to us. They're not always being run with a solely financial goal in mind.
100%. And that's one of my core principles of the life friendly business approach, is that you're doing it for your own measures of success, not being swayed by what other people tell you success looks like. So, right, what I would love to know is, for people out there who are thinking maybe they could run an event, a charity event, or just an event like online, offline, but that's kind of in sync with their business and what their business does. I'd love to hear from you what you would say are like the 3 top mistakes that they should avoid when it comes to creating an event similar to what you do. Well, not necessarily similar, an event full stop, because I think, what you achieved was absolutely, huge. And, not everyone might be in the situation where they can do something as big, but even like, a small event that they could do in their local area to get visible. What tips would you give them?
I would say really don't underestimate the power of your network. So, but not only your network, but the network that the other people that have. So, so this event was very much arranged with we've got you on board. Who else can you on board? Can you go ask this person? Can you find somebody that can edit video? Can you find somebody that can do the social media for us? Can you find somebody that can build the website for us to promote the event? So there was kind of the immediate network, and then those people that I'd networked with then went and networked with their network, and it grew and grew and grew. And I think that's something you could replicate across any event, really, that power of network.
That's brilliant.
Networks.
networks. Okay, number 2.
My second lesson would probably be to not let yourself be led by other people's values, to be very much led by your own. So one of the reasons I had quite a good network is that I'd volunteered by time to do various things. So I volunteer for a group called Historians Collaborate, which is all about genealogists and academics working closer together. I'd built their website for them originally for free. And a lot of other business people that I know kind of said, I think you give quite a lot of your time away for free. And, you sure that's what you want to do, and all these kind of things. And it was out of a genuine concern. It wasn't out of any malice. But actually, one of my core values is kindness. And I've kind of, this event really taught me that all that time that I'd invested for free actually has always ended up paying off in some way or another, whether that's somebody giving me some free coaching advice in return, or whether that's actually being then paid to do the website that I'd originally done voluntarily, or this History for Ukraine event where I had that network. So I guess that's kind of going by your own values rather than listening to those of other people's. That makes sense.
It does. I love that. And number 3.
Number 3 would be probably to don't be afraid to harness the power of FOMO. So fear of missing out. I think that's one of the things that really helped to promote our event, that we really leveraged when we were organising it. So in the 2 weeks running up to actually doing the event live, I did a almost daily update in the evening about how the organisation of it was doing. So each evening I'd go on and I'd say, hey, we've just got the speaker agreements out. Have you got yours? Have you signed it? We've had some of them back, and I'd kind of try and harness that power of the fear that people might have that they're missing out, and the fear that they might be missing out on some of the news about this upcoming event. So I kind of leveraged the actual organising of it as a way of building FOMO, if that makes sense.
And that's great, because, people love to hear behind the scenes stuff as well, don't they? It makes them feel more invested in this event.
Yeah, absolutely. And it was definitely an event that we wanted people to, because it was all about giving donations, it was an event that we wanted people to feel really invested in right from the start. So yeah, so I suppose that's the fourth lesson really, is don't be afraid to let all the warts show, because it you know, the evening updates that I did, sometimes I was absolutely shattered with, you know, and I would be stumbling over my words. I had big black bags under my eyes. Sometimes it was probably a little bit incoherent, but actually it didn't matter, because it was for other people watching, it was like, wow, look at all this work that's going on the other side, you know. Yeah. So yeah. I suppose that's going back to perfectionism again, isn't it? Don't let that perfectionism stand in your way.
We can get so frozen with worrying that things aren't perfect and not taking any action at all. So I love the quote about imperfect action is better than no action.
Yeah, definitely. And funnily enough, it's something that I tell my club members all the time, because they're writing their family history and they can get very kind of, oh no, I'm missing a fact about my ancestor, or I've got a gap, or I'm worried about publishing this and I might have got something wrong, or it might be a bit culturally insensitive, or all those kind of things. And I always say, publish it anyway, and just put a caveat at the beginning. And I've done it with my blog post before. I've said, you know, I've written this blog post. I know it's got grammar mistakes. There's only me reading it. I'll probably come back in 6 months' time and finally clear up the commas. You know, if you're that fussed about grammar, then I'm probably not the best person to read. So, you know. I always think, I hope that people do reach out to me and let me know when, like, they've spotted a clanger or something like that, because I would much rather that someone reached out to me and told me. I had that with the podcast episode that went out this week, actually. Like, there was this unedited bit at the end, and thank goodness someone messaged me. And so I was like, thank you so much, because I just wouldn't have known otherwise. Yeah. So. And actually, I think putting something out into the world and saying, like, I mean, I've used a family history example, but it could be anything. It could be, I don't know, email marketing, and saying, look, this is what I'm doing. This is what I'm experimenting with. And actually, I'm not saying this is what you should do. This is something I'm just playing with. What do you think? Have you tried this? Did it work for you, or did it not work for you? Or, you know, not kind of worrying so much about having to, you know, have all our facts proven and to have a big stack of evidence and to have it all neatly parceled. It is okay to say to people, I'm playing with this, or I'm being creative with this, or I don't know the answer. This is just what I think at the moment, and that might change. That, you know, actually it opens up a conversation.
Totally. And actually, I heard something from a talk where they were basically saying that they do YouTube, and instead of doing how-to videos, which all the gurus do, they do how I. So, you know, how I approach this, how I do this. And I really like that. And I'm going to start adopting that for myself, because it's like, look, this is what I do. There's lots of different ways to do it. And I'm just sharing what I do. And I'm not telling you you've got to do it that way. I'm just saying this is my experience of it. And I really like that approach.
Yeah, I really like that too. So I find social media really exhausting, and I used to really love Twitter, and it was the one thing that I did that didn't feel exhausting, that I just enjoyed. But since the recent changes, I've not enjoyed it as much. And I had a conversation with another small business owner, Laura, I think, and I was talking to her and saying, you know, oh, I've still got to do this social media and it just never gets done because I don't enjoy it. And she just said, well, don't do it then.
Yeah.
And that, to me, that was like, I was like, wow, well, what do you mean don't do it? She was like, well, if it's not working for you, then don't do it and try something else and see what happens. And I was like, yeah, that's, you know, that's really, really good advice. Why I've definitely fallen into that trap of, because I quite enjoy marketing as well, of kind of burning myself out with it. And if I could go back and speak to myself a year ago, I would say you don't need to do half as much as you're doing.
And I think, just very quickly about Twitter, like Twitter, actually, I've got my most followers on Twitter, but the engagement and reach is awful. So every time I go on, I think, why am I even bothering with this? But in my head, it is that feeling of, but I've got all these people following me, but they're not actually seeing my posts anyway. So
no, I know. Twitter makes me really sad, because I genuinely feel really, really quite sad about what's happened to it, because I absolutely love it. It's how I organised History for Ukraine. It is by far the place that I have by far the biggest following, and it's a place where I've always had really interesting conversations. I've always felt like there was a really strong family history community there that was actually really supportive as well, and I've met a lot of really good friends through it. So to not tweet anymore was quite painful, But like you say, I realized that I was doing these tweets and actually hardly anyone's reading them because there's the platform's in such a mess. So I've kind of said to myself, I if I fancy tweeting, then obviously I just will, but that's as far as it goes. And however, if the problems get fixed, then those followers are still there, and I'll be back on there like a shot, and if not, maybe I'll find another home. I suppose Twitter kind of taught me quite a valuable lesson as well, in that they always say, not to build your house on somebody else's platform. And I hadn't really thought of like Twitter and Facebook as being that, because if they feel so permanent. But I'm really glad that I've got quite a strong email list.
Yes.
And that I that I built that, and it's definitely made me think about that really is my place to nurture people, because nobody can take them away.
Yeah,
they can
absolutely.
only decide to opt out.
Very valid point. Oh, thank you so much, Natalie, and huge congratulations as well for what you achieved with the event. And thank you. So how can people get in touch with you and find out more about you?
They can find me on my website, which is www.genealogystories.co.uk, and they can find me there, or they can find me as Genealogy Stories over on Twitter, where I do still lurk, even if I'm not that active. But my website's probably the best place to find me and to follow me and contact me.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Natalie.
Thank you very much, Erin.
If you're ready to take your business to the next level but are not quite sure what the next best step is, fill out the form at lifefriendlybusiness.com/next step, and I'll get back to you personally with bespoke advice on how to move forward. I look forward to connecting.